All right, hello everybody. I put together the Zoom meeting mostly just because first hour we were a little short on time because I had delayed posting things. But before we open up the questions or whatever else, we just had a big staff meeting for Rochester Adams. There's been communications from the board office clarifying things. So in terms of attendance and grading, basically I learned today that I have to actually input attendance and I have the week to do it. So whether you're first hour or sixth hour, doesn't matter. I need to record attendance, and attendance is basically going to be any way you have shown that you're involved with the class that can be documented. So as I've already said, those Google Forms, that's really all that matters. And for attendance, it doesn't even have to be correct. All I'm looking at is you had an electronic presence. You could also send me a text message. You can send me an email, just something that says, hey, I'm here, I'm checking in. Literally, that's all it has to say is I am checking in. If all you're doing is doing the Google Forms, that's plenty. If you are running short on time and you realize you haven't, checked in yet this week, you can just jump on Google Forms, put your name and your hour, and you can leave it blank, and then you can come back later and submit answers in. So I was going to just simply have a grade book have my Synergy grade book. I was just going to have it be each weekly assignment, and if you did it by the end of the year, end of the school year, that counted as your attendance. I can't do that because they want me to do a weekly attendance. So if you miss a week and you are marked absent for a week, it doesn't mean that you're going to fail. It just means that you weren't available that week. Could be for any reason. Could be medical reasons, could be health reasons, which I guess is the same as medical reasons. Could be anything. So missing a day, missing a week isn't, grounds for you getting, kicked out of the class or whatever else. But if you want to just keep everything as simple as possible, just make sure you are submitting any Google form that I have posted for the week. Just submit one of them that week. That way I can mark you down as present. You can always resubmit 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times if you want to get it right. When I have to, basically our grading is, did they give me 60% worth of, passing effort and grades? Did they do 60% right, or does it look like they earned 60%? So that's the new grade scale. Yes, they did. No, they didn't. Or, yes, they did. They didn't even turn it in, or they turned it in, but they need to do more. So that's our new grade scale. So that was informed. I was informed of that today. So long story short, make sure, even if you're not even submitting answers, make sure you send me a Google form each week so I can mark you as present. And then you can always go back and redo it so that the actual score itself. So the only scores that are going in are going to be UT assignments and those Google forms. And again, the grading is they did it, they did not do it, or they did it, but they still need to do better to earn 60%. UT is simple. Did you get a 60 or not? Simple. So that's where we stand for that. And I'm going to put that into writing, and I'm going to post it for all the people that weren't here today, because like I said, I learned that literally, it's 3:05. I learned that 1 hour ago at our staff meeting, our virtual staff meeting. So with that, that's the only update I have for everybody. And again, I'm going to put that in writing and post it so that everyone can see that. This is being recorded, and I can post it if necessary. Yep. Okay. So with that, any questions anyone has regarding physics? Like I said, this was first hour. I didn't have a lot of time to look over the material and then formulate questions. This week, I'm going to get back to my better. I'm just going to be better about everything. So I will have things posted on Friday night or by Friday like usual, and it'll be due 2 Sundays from then. So this Friday I'll post, and then a week from this Sunday it'll be due. So you'll have basically a 10-day window. So if you're first hour, you'll have a chance to look at it over the weekend if you want, so you can come in first hour asking questions. If you're a Friday person, you have a chance to ask questions, and you have 3 days to get it submitted. So that's the plan there. So any Yeah, and like I said, I'll post this as well. So questions, Alan?
For the Coulombs Law notes, slide 5, could you explain the beginning part?
Yep. So you tell me, is this the slide?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So Coulomb's law is it's an equation, and we didn't do this in my class, but Mrs. Main, her class did. We kind of we each kind of do our own little thing. This actually matches Newton's law of gravitation that shows gravity between any two objects in the universe. So if you were from Mrs. Main's class, you might recognize that. If not, it doesn't matter. Long story short, this right here is our equation to figure out the force between any two charges. You have to have two charges, hence Q1 and Q2, to have an electric force. One single object can't apply force on its own. Something has to push it or pull it. So the force between them is this equation. K is just a constant number. It's a nice simple 9 times 10 to the 9th power. So if you're doing a calculation, it's really easy to type into your calculator. Q1 and Q2 is the amount of charge. The amount of charge is measured in this. If I go back a slide, I think it's probably there. Nope, keep going back. There we go. Charge is abbreviated with the Q, and it's measured in a Coulomb. That's just the unit that we use for measuring, capital C. 1 Coulomb of charge is huge. So it's very common to see prefixes such as, do I have it here? I do. Micro coulombs and nano coulombs and maybe millicoulombs. So just make sure you're up on your prefixes. Anytime you see this little symbol here, mu, so micro coulombs, literally just means add in times 10 to the negative 6. You see nano, add in a times 10 to the negative 9th at the end. That's all that means. So, oops. So that's Q1 and Q2. R, sometimes you'll see the letter D. R is typically more proper because it's a little bit more generic. R is literally the distance between your two charges. The farther and farther and farther away you get, the less force you experience, which is why two tapes being held like this didn't do anything. When you brought them close together, you finally saw them start to spread apart because you decreased that distance. So it's literally a plug and chug. Make sure this is in coulombs, make sure this is in coulombs, make sure this is in meters, and you calculate. And what you're going to get is a force, and that's the force felt by each of your particles. Newton's third law. Each particle feels the same. Now, I can have charges that are the same, but I can have different sizes. So the force acting on each particle could have a different result. It's like we said, Newton's third law, a bug and a car crash together. It's the same force, but they might have different masses, which means different results from that force. Same thing for your charge. So if you want to figure out what that force is going to do to your object, you need to know how big your object is, which is why on the slide, it's pretty common for us to make sure we cite how big an electron is and how big a proton is, and what the charge is of a single electron or a single proton. Now, the last thing to point out for Coulomb's law is this right here. This force can be a force of attraction or a force of repulsion. And students say, should I put in like the negatives and the positives and do all the work? My answer is no. I just put in numbers. 9 times 10 to the 9, whatever Q1 is, whatever Q2 is, no negatives, no positives. And whatever my distance is, I get a number, I get a value. And then I apply my knowledge and say, these are like charges, repel. That means this one goes to the right, this one goes to the left. Or, hey, they are opposite charges. That's going to be a force of attraction. So one goes left, one goes right. The reason I tell students to do that, because until today, negative always meant left or down, and positive always meant right or up. Well, you start putting negatives and positives into this equation, now negative doesn't mean left anymore, and positive doesn't mean right anymore. So I just get a number, and then I apply my smarts and say, okay, attraction or repulsion. Does that help clear up any questions you had for?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, absolutely. All right. Questions, physics or otherwise, that anyone has? don't be afraid to either unmute yourself or you can send out a message to the group chat and I can read it off there and answer that. Yeah, go ahead, Sam. There are no exams. We were told today there are no exams. That's why we end school on June 5th instead of June whatever if we were going to do. So there are absolutely no exams. So basically on March 11th, I'm going to double check my grade book this afternoon. Whatever you had going for third quarter, March 11th, as long as it was 60% or better, you were passing third quarter. And then whatever you have been doing starting this week, so that 3-week period in between where we did 1 week of nothing and then 2 weeks of let's get started and we've been doing work, that is kind of just optional in space, whatever, that's nothing. So your week until the end of the year. And if everything here is passing and everything in third quarter was passing, then you pass. If third quarter was not passing and you don't go back to fix anything, and then fourth quarter is passing, then we got to figure out where it goes. And I'm sure if it's kind of one of these, I'm sure it'll tip to you pass. And obviously, very few people in my classes, had something less than a 60. And if they did, it's because their onlines were late and you just do the onlines and just like that, you're back up to a 60. So, and I realize people have a lot of challenges going on. I understand that. So unless you have something going on in that sense, you'd have to kind of work pretty hard to not pass. I mean, if you're just showing up and reading the notes and answering things, you're going to get a 60 or more. So, you'd have to want to fail. Unless, of course, you've got crazy family stuff going on and people are in the hospital, and that's a total another story. And that's, and the teachers and the administration, we will work with you. We're not going to say, oh, sorry about your health. You failed too, by the way. There's no one's going to do that. But just make sure we're having communication.
Gotcha.
I don't know what their exact plan is, but I do know that what they do is they are saying once you click on start, you have 25 minutes to do your work. And so if this was me, you have the option of either typing answers into the word processor into the computer, or you have the option of writing it out on paper, taking a photo, and uploading that. So what I would do if this was me, if I wanted to do, personally, I'm doing pencil and paper. But if you're doing it all on the computer and your Wi-Fi is spotty, I'd have some paper sitting next to me just in case. But I'm willing to bet that when you log in and you do question number 1, if it's AP Bio or whatever else, you do question number 1, I'm pretty sure that once you see the question, you can type, whether you have Wi-Fi or not, you're typing in. And then after the 25 minutes is up, or sooner if you're done quickly, that's when you do you get 5 minutes to upload it or submit it or whatever. So I think, they'll go through that. So like I said, I would have my, if I'm doing it on the computer, I'd have that. I'd have my piece of paper ready to go. Worst case scenario, I take a photograph of my screen and then I maybe can somehow send it in. So I'd have a bunch of fail safes kind of lined up, Joe. So at the very least, have pencil and paper ready, and you can take a photograph and you can always email it to somebody or to them or something, because the email will be timed.
Right. Thank you.
Not that you can't tamper with that, but the email can be time stamped, and you can. Because, like I said, I think a lot we're going to be pretty open-minded. It's a guess.
Do you know what they're going to be doing about the juniors and how they have to take like SAT, M-STEP, and ACT work keys and all of that?
Okay, so I know that they canceled all that for this year, and I just read something about if school gets delayed into the fall, what they're going to do an SAT. I believe that's kind of similar to how they're doing AP, where it's going to be some kind of an electronic version. But I believe if school starts normally in August, like it's supposed to this year, I believe that you will have all those juniors who will then be seniors. All those seniors, the class of 2021, will have a fall SAT, school provided, state provided, free kind of a thing. So you'll have your shot at your SAT. I'm guessing for the M-STEP, if I remember correctly, because it's been a while since I've actually looked at the meaning behind M-STEP. M-STEP is usually, it's a school thing usually, where you know, they're looking at how people are doing, how they're improving, everything else. I don't think that it really does much for you, the student. So I'm willing to bet, and I'm guessing on this one because I haven't seen anything. I'm pretty sure MSTEP is just canceled for you. You're not doing that. You're just doing the ACT. And if you, well, none of you would remember because you're juniors and haven't taken it, but basically when you have that week of ACT, day one is ACT, and then day two is like this short little M-step thing. So I'm pretty sure they're just gonna scrap that. And if they don't scrap it, it'll just be in the fall with the makeup SAT. And I don't know what that's gonna look like. Is it gonna be another one of those, just the class of 2021 comes in and everyone else has the day off like we used to do? And I don't know how that's gonna work, but I do know they're gonna offer a normal free SAT in the fall instead of the one that you would have had like yesterday. They're gonna do that. And if there's a delay in how we start in the fall, they are planning some kind of an electronic makeup. That's my understanding.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Other questions? So remember, Zoom meetings are optional. They're here for you to ask questions. Your attendance is going to be through those Google Forms that I have each week. And as long as one of them gets completed, where I can see your name and your hour, I can mark you as present, and you can submit as many times as you want if you wanted to correct any of your answers. So just keep that in mind. And any of my Zoom meetings are open to everyone, but make sure you're not skipping your hour to come to my Zoom meeting. If you have something else you're supposed to be doing with your teacher, don't do that. But if you're free because your Zoom meeting was at 9 and mine's at 10, everyone's welcome to drop in if you have questions, or if you just want to sit and watch in case there's a question you hadn't thought of. And as always, if there's something relevant that is good for everyone to hear, I will post that to YouTube like I've been doing. So you can always kind of scan through real quick. And in the description of the video, I try to write down what it is that's in the video so you can kind of see if it's something that you need to look at. And I usually do that in order. First we talked about this, second we talked about this, and that's usually how I try to do that. So you can always just jump onto the classrooms, pardon me, the classroom stream and see that. Any other questions? And obviously next week, you can ask questions about what we did this week. I mean, nothing's off limits. So, and any deadlines that need to be extended for any UTs, whether it was third quarter stuff or whether it's stuff we're doing now, just ask. I'll keep opening those. I really don't have a deadline for those. I mean, I have to have a deadline, but I don't want a deadline, if that makes any sense. All right, well, if you're fifth hour folks, I'll see you tomorrow maybe at 10 if you want. Otherwise, everyone have a nice weekend, and I'll have everything posted so you can start looking at it over the weekend, especially you first hour folks. It's just going to be a continuation of the math now. Now we're getting into math. So that's the plan. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye, Mr. Lohr.
Absolutely, everyone. Be safe. Good to see you all.
Thank you.
Absolutely.